So in this video, I'm going to show how to make a gig, a frog gig. You know, if you're out to frogging or even getting some fishies like that, this is kind of how you do it. It's fairly simple how to do it. It's just getting stuff sharp, getting your prong sharp. Here's one that I made some years ago, and I actually was able, it was big enough to where I was able to, as you can see, try to put some prongs in there. This is just a showpiece. It's, you know, I don't actually use it, but you have separators in there, which is what these sticks are for. This would go into another end piece so that it could wriggle, and that way that is because so that when you get something like a fish or something that's going to wriggle and is fighting for its life, it's not going to have anything to leverage itself off of. This is just going to give with it, and this cordage or string, which is actually sinew, is going to be attached to the main body of the staff, and so you know, that's what that's designed for. And I remember making, I think I made this out of oak. Wow, some years ago, almost about 10 years ago now. But yeah, this is kind of my little showpiece here. So finally, I'm getting around to making showing how to make a frog gig out of a piece of willow here. And it's, you know, not that difficult. Again, same sort of construction. I'm using you're going to need some cordage to it. This is stuck. This is attached to a longer shaft versus something that's going to be detachable, which is a different sort of construction configuration. But the concept or the way that this is constructed is more or less the same. I did not put barbs in it. I didn't try to put barbs in it. This should work for bullfrogs and for green frogs and such like that. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I go through making this. Okay, so I've got some cordage here, and this is wax nylon. You can use pretty much any other type of cordage that you could come across or procure, and I just need a little bit to start. I don't need a whole bunch of it. I got my cutting tool here. Take this and cut that. But essentially I want to go about 7 inches down, maybe about 6 inches down, and I'm going to start to wrap. I'm going to do what's called common whipping. I'll start right about here, and I'm just going to wrap the cordage around like so. And it doesn't have to be very long or too deep, but the whole purpose is to keep the stick from splitting. So we just wrap this around like that. And then when we come to the end, and again, it's not the best wrap job. Not the best wrap job at all, but that's all right. When we come to the end, I want to stick it in the loop like that. And then take this free end here and pull it underneath. Not all the way through, but just underneath, like that. Okay. And that will hold it for our intents and purposes. And then you just cut off the ends, like so. created a slot that will split the stick in two, but we want it in quarters, to be honest. Okay, so I'll start there, and then on the other side here, this should go all the way through so that it can split in quarters. There will be some whittling involved as we split this in quarters here to get these sharp. And so we can kind of start to shave this a little bit. And again, I don't have anybody next to me, so I don't have to worry about slipping and cutting anybody. But if it were, I would be pulling this towards me. As we continue to make this, now I'm going to go ahead and use my cutting tool, and I'm going to wedge this down to split them apart in quadrants and 4 points. So this is already starting to split, which is good, but that's the reason why we put the cordage there first, so it doesn't split all the way down the shaft. Alright, so once we have this split in quadrants like that, then you want to take these little splinters, these little splints here, or make some splints like so, and you're going to wedge them in between. That's what's going to help separate the quadrants. And then one goes laterally, the other one goes counterlaterally, I guess would be the term. I can kind of take this and they stack on top of each other, and that's what's going to keep them separate. Push these down like that. So now you can already see what kind of configuration we're starting to have already. Okay, oopsie daisy. And again, it all starts by tying at the base to keep the wood from splintering all the way down. Okay, so this is the start of our gig. Now what we want to do is we want to secure our splints to the base here, and it's really kind of simple. It's not rocket science. It's just, we're going to just tie our cordage around the splints. So what I can do is very similar to what we have been doing, is I can kind of create a bow or a loop, and I can stick it in here, and I'm going to push our splints up a little bit. I'm going to push our loop in between the spokes like that, and then we can push everything back down again. And then I'm going to take my running end. I want my shorter end to be loose or free, and then I can start to wrap this around. Okay, and again, I want to push this down properly, and I'm gonna wrap this around a little bit, and then what you want to start to do is kind of loop around the spokes like this. Okay, and these will help pull everything down, especially as you start to make things tighter. And all it is just start to wrap. I'm just going to wrap, and every now and again I might engage a spoke. You know, I may loop around the spoke to pull it down, like that, 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 and I'm just gonna keep wrapping this around. All right, I'm gonna keep on going. I want to not completely wrap my loop because we'll need that for when we're finished. Okay, so now that we're at the end of it, you take the end through the loop that we created and you can pull it through so it sits underneath somewhere. And then you can go ahead and tie it off or cut it as you see fit. And that's kind of how I'm doing it. There's probably a different way, more elegant way to tie this. I'm just going to just overhand knot this and then be done with it. So it's not going to go anywhere. Okay. And so I'll cut the stragglers off, but there you have it. So this is our configuration for the most part. This is on here. These spokes are ready, and they're ready to be sharpened and shaved. So that's the next step. We're going to sharpen these. So I'm going to take my cutting tool and start to shave to make sharp points. And we want sharp points to the point where we're afraid of them. They need to be like pointy points, right? And we'll just keep shaving them till we have a nice sharp point on each one of the spokes here. So we have gone around each one of the spokes here and have sharpened them to a point where they're scary. Next thing we're going to do is harden them a little bit. We're going to put some oil on them and then apply a little bit of heat, and then we can hone them and make them even a little bit sharper. But by doing so, you'll make the tips a little bit harder. They won't go through steel or rock, but it'll save you from having to resharpen these every time you use it. Okay, so we have our gig sharpened and to the point where you should be afraid of it. We're going to go one step further. This is an extra step if you have the resources to do so. So I have some oil or tallow here, and what I want to do is I want to soak the tips in the tallow like so, and then I want to heat them. I want to heat it. So I want to soak the tips in the tallow. And then using our burner, we can let this soak in because it's warm. This is actually warm tallow. I want this to kind of soak into the wood a little bit. Okay, so we have our indoor flame. It's not a campfire. Yes, I know. The point is to heat our tips up with the oil that has been saturated into the spokes or into the prongs of our gig here. And I don't need to get it directly into it, I just want to get it above it. And this will slowly kind of soak in and it'll harden a little bit, and then we can finish shaping. So I'm gonna get this above a little bit. You can see it because you can kind of see here it's wanting to burn. The flame is kind of hot. So I just kind of want this above there, and then we'll finish the shape. We'll finish shaping it. But this helps harden the prongs, our spears, fire hardening, if you will. Okay, so after it cools off a little bit, we're gonna continue to shave a little bit, again, to make them tips sharp, very sharp, needle sharp. Okay, most people will make stuff and it's blunted, and it's like, no. If you look at an eagle's talons, if you have the opportunity to do so, those things are needle freaking sharp. If you got a cat, those things are needle freaking sharp, and that's how your tool should be for hunting, for getting food. All right, you got to make sure your stuff is. You got to be afraid of it. You have to be afraid of it, and you can hone them, and sand them, and sharpen them as you see fit. All right. So essentially, that's pretty much it. That's how you make a a frog gig, or any type of gig, whatever you're trying to get at. This is on a longer stave or staff, to where I don't have to get too close. At night, you shine a light, and it freezes the frog or whatever you're after, and this will get them. Yeah, so it's kind of a little fun little project, but I've seen people do gigs like this and they're like dull as heck, and I'm like, are you kidding me? What are you gonna get with that? You have to make it sharp. You have to make it sharp. I'm gonna say it again. You have to make it sharp, and then you might have to continually, throughout the night or whatever you're hunting for, you might have to continue to hone it. So that's how you make one. It's not that difficult. It's kind of easy, to be honest. You just gotta, put a little elbow grease into it.